Hello, hello. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. Today we have Michele Blumenthal here with us today. And as always, I love to invite guests on to inspire you with their stories because I have the amazing honor and privilege to engage with incredible humans all the time, thanks to the amazing internet, which I love. And Michele is definitely one of those people. And Michele's cool as a guest because she has also been a client of mine through neurolinguistic programming training and hypnosis training that I've done. And she's also a fitness coach. She's done jazzercise in the past, and I have a specific love for jazzercise because my mom did it all growing up as I was growing up, and she absolutely loved it. And we remember, yeah, being brought to the little daycare as mom made sure she got to her jazzercise class every morning. And yeah, we just see her jumping around in the gym and all the different things. So anyway, we love jazzercise in my house. And yeah, and then yeah, Michele's also been able to transition into helping people using the deeper dive work of neurolinguistic programming and coaching. And yeah, she also has an amazing story about why she really has chosen this path to do the deeper dive. And it's really based on her own life experience. So, Michele, without further ado, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Leslie. So, as Leslie said, I'm Michele Blumenthal. I started my business is M3, Mind and Motion with Michele. And to tell you kind of how I got here, I have a 16-year-old son that is, fast forward to right now, he is in a sober living environment, crushing it, doing amazing. 2.5 years ago, that was not the story. He was really struggling. He wasn't getting out of bed, wasn't able to get to school. When he did get to school, he was getting in trouble. There was substance abuse problems and just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And he, as he actually wrote in his college essay just recently, that he felt like he hit a rock bottom, and that was when he thought he was overdosing on a drug and called me and just wanted and needed the help. And so, unbeknownst to him, while he was at work the next day, I had already had all these plans in the making, and he did not know that I already had a place for him to go. So reluctantly, after he got off work, it took about an hour and a half or so to get him in the car to actually go. My daughter came, and there we went on the journey from Columbus, Ohio to uh, Montana, which, if you know how long that takes, that's like 30 plus just driving hours. That's without stopping. And man, that was the hardest trip I've ever taken in my life. And yeah, he didn't want to go the first two-thirds of the trip. It was he threw his shoes out the window. He was wrestling with my daughter when I had to go to the bathroom. It was a nightmare. And my daughter and I probably drove 27 hours straight because we just didn't want to stop. And the story kind of starts there, because the program he went to is called Triple Divide Lodge, was very focused on AA. And it was there that it wasn't just the kids that needed to take part, but it was the parents. And they highly encouraged the parents to take part in Al-Anon. And that's when I found Al-Anon and started. Again, one like hard thing after another was what happened. And as I was trying to repair myself, because my son was away doing the repairing on himself, there's just one thing kind of led to another. So I made the hard decision, financially needed to figure out how we were going to continue his care. Um, for those that may be listening and don't know, it's very expensive for your kids to get the care that he got. And I'm grateful because I'm not sure he would be with us still, which
Wow.
is a really try not to cry.
Mm,
Uh, grateful for it. But along with that was, okay, how do I figure out how to pay? Because after his first 90 days, he then went to a program, which is the continuum he is part of now, still part of, is called Imbalance Continuum. So the first part was the Imbalance Ranch, which was a equine therapy program in the middle of nowhere in Arizona, which he just flourished at and did really, really well. In the meantime, I was like, okay, how do I cut corners? How do I, make things right? And a couple of things came through my head, which was one was, I'm not sure I want him to come back to the environment that he was in. Um, and so was looking into moving away from the community. And if anybody listens and knows me from back home in Ohio, you all know I lived there for the first 51 years of my life. And so to move was such a huge step for me to take as well. But I also felt strongly about that. And then also the financial help that I was going to get by being able to do that. So here I go, picking up my life, going, and left my daughter behind, which was a super hard thing. Didn't think she was going to stay in Ohio, but got a super great job in Ohio. So there's that. But when I left with no job. And it was like, oh, shoot, what am I going to do? And
and
I'm
was that
in
when you
this,
left Jazzercise? Was right
and
there?
that's as,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I was still, even though I didn't own Jazzercise, I was 28 years of teaching and owned for many of those. And it was a huge outlet for me and a community. And there's none here in North Carolina where I live. The closest one is an hour and 15 minutes away. So it was a hard thing to give that up, because I had to. I wasn't in an opportunity to open up my own classes because I was traveling. I was traveling back to Columbus. I was traveling to see Zachary and to do the work that you had to do as a family. Um, so it's just the opportunity that it wasn't feasible to do that. So yeah, so here I go, showing up to Jacksonville, North Carolina, and like, okay, here's my bags. Now
Oh,
what?
gosh, wow. It's incredible. I mean, just your dedication as a parent, your ability to just do whatever it took to take care of your son, and but then also your commitment to doing whatever family work, was needing to be done as well. Um, and obviously I've been working with you through this time, but to like hear the play by play of exactly to recognize just how much you were in that time, when things found each other. And so I'm curious, a couple questions came to me. So, um, when your son called you and let you know that he was using and wanted help, did you already know that he was using drugs? Was there issues prior? There was a lot of things that led up to that. Okay, got it. I had a
Yeah,
family member. Go ahead.
sorry, it probably started when he was like 12. There were some suicide attempts. He did IOP, in intensive, he did PHP, which was inpatient, and then, or IOP, and then POP. I can't remember which one's one. One's inpatient, one's out. Um, but he did several stints at a couple different hospitals. So he was really struggling. At that point, I I know now that he was starting to dabble with the drugs. I didn't know it, to what extent. But there was lots of depression and anxiety, and just he was struggling.
Wow.
And it's not like I was ignoring that, right? I mean, I was doing
Mm.
everything locally possible. The children's hospital there in Columbus we were doing everything I knew to do, and nothing was helping.
Mhm. Yeah. Again, incredible testament to, yeah, and I'm sure there's just other, people who can relate to that in different ways with family members and whatever. how, when you're trying to do all the right things and, so makes sense so obviously when you got that phone call, you were like, enough is enough and started researching and found this place, or you already found it prior?
I,
Okay.
I had already found it prior. There was actually an incident that he was staying part-time with me and part-time with his stepdad, because at that point we were divorced. And then it became like mostly stepdad. They had a whole run in and he wasn't allowed to stay there anymore, which was a blessing in disguise. That's what needed to happen. I just didn't know how to get him out of the house,
Mm.
out of his house. Um,
Right.
and and so then legally, like the police got involved and all the, it wasn't pretty. But
Mm.
bottom line was he wasn't allowed to stay there anymore. And then it became really obvious that he just wasn't capable or able to. I mean, he just, there was one day we were he was laying in bed and he's like, I just don't know what's wrong with me.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I said, I'll find some place for you to go. And I sat there on the floor of his bedroom, just like researching and looking. It's like, what did you find? And and I think the story is pretty common with those that have addiction, that kids that have addiction, that they go these ups and downs, right? That, okay, I'm ready to go. And then the next day they're like, no, no, I'm fine.
Yep.
Right. And so that work was still happening. And I knew that he needed it, really needed it. And, um, the scary, the he's not answering his phone. I don't know what's happened. Me rushing and saying, hey, can somebody cover me at work? And, getting in the car, speeding down the highway just to go home to make sure he was alive.
Wow. Oh gosh. Yep.
Um, and at that time had the most incredible boss. I worked for a gym in Columbus called Fit Club, and he came to me the one morning. So would go work out in the morning and then work in the early morning and then in the evenings. And he said, take the week off. Go be
Mm.
with your son and take the week off. I don't care what you do. Just and so I went home because he wasn't at school. I said, just let me know what clothes you need me to pack. Are we going north, south, east, or west? Let's get out of here for a few days.
Mm.
And so we did that. And while we went to Myrtle Beach, and while we were doing that, I was making all the phone calls and making all the stuff, trying to figure out how to figure out a place. Lots of help from my sister, who did a lot of the phone calls and research for me. Um, and when I came home from that trip, I took him to the friend's house. I knew he was going to be up to no good, but I needed to have the opportunity to go to my dad and stepmom's house to ask them for money.
Mm.
And it was that night that I that he overdosed. Turns out he didn't overdose, obviously, because
Mhm.
he's alive. I guess you can overdose and not be alive, but it was enough for him that he didn't know what was going on with his body.
Mhm.
So
Yep. That's his rock, and that was what he was describing as his rock bottom. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and he called
Oh.
me, needed me, called the ambulance, well, all that stuff, and he was slept
Okay.
with me that night, make sure he was okay. Yeah,
And the
and it
next day
was
off to Montana.
then the next day off to Montana.
Wow. You had it perfectly organized.
Oh,
You
the car was
know?
packed. He
Yeah.
didn't know.
Oh my goodness. Wow, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing that. I just really appreciate that. I'm curious when it was, and I'm so happy that he's doing so well right now. It's incredible and like, oh my God, so awesome. How many years has it been since that?
That was October of 2 years ago, so just over
Wow.
2 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Ugh, wow, wow, wow. So when you were doing all the family Al-Anon and he was in that, what were the things that were the most? impactful things that you learned, or what are some of the things that stand out to you, either that he told you that he learned or that you learned doing Al-Anon?
So it's interesting because the Al-Anon was there was a women's group that I was part of in Columbus that I and it was the first live meetings that I went to, and it took me a, a handful of times to A, share,
Mm,
and B, be able to share because I was just bawling.
mm. Yeah.
And I still very emotional about it. What was interesting about it was nobody was there that had a teenager.
Mm,
They may have had adult children, mostly parents and mostly spouses. Um, Now, the program that he was in Balance, did have, does have a Al-Anon group, a virtual group that all the parents get on. Um, and I would get on that call and share and got from it. Um, but it was Arizona time.
mm,
And so, 8 o'clock at night for me, I mean, I was just being real honest, like it was late for me
mhm,
and then to, let all those emotions out and things like that. So,
mhm,
um, but the organization, and I'm not really answering your question, but in a way I'm answering your
mhm.
question is this, which I know I've told you about, is other parents like me, is an organization that started from a couple of parents whose kids went through the imbalance continuum. And this organization is OPLM is exactly what it is. It's other parents that have kids that are struggling.
Mm.
Can be addiction, could be ADHD, could be, you know, anorexia, or, any sort of disorder. Um,
What does the L and the M stand for?
Other parents like me,
Oh, cool. Other parents like me. Got it.
other parents like me. So, and it was that group that I really feel like I found my group,
Mm,
found my community. Um, and I joined that once, if not twice a week. That it's that work there that I felt more connected with than Al-Anon.
mhm,
Um, Working through the steps, Al-Anon has the same steps, not the same step, but has a step process just like AA does. Um, and although some of it resonated with me, some of it I wasn't I'm going to read the book and so on and so forth. I felt more connected with this group that would have a reading, and it was, hey, what's this reading feel like to
mm,
you? What is it that you want to share about? And that kind of connection for me, and it like it was like clockwork that I would be, I can't make it, I can't make it. Fine, I really should just go and make it. And that reading that day would be exactly the one that I needed to hear that day. And that's why I keep showing up.
mhm. I love that. Yeah, and you actually just had the opportunity to present for OPLM recently as well to support other parents and kinda give
Yeah.
them the opportunity to, yeah, move through some of their stuff, which we can touch on in a moment. I just wanna double click on what you said about how you found your community. I got, like, really moved by that because I remember, definitely different than, drug or alcohol addiction, but with my food addiction stuff, going to looking into OA, Overeaters Anonymous, which I know, many people I talk to have looked into, or, there's Food Addicts Anonymous, which I was a part of a group that, came from Food Addicts Anonymous and all this type of stuff. But I just remember Yeah, just feeling like an emptiness in any of these communities that I went to. Like it just felt like these aren't my people. The people felt like a different, I don't know, it just, and so it doesn't motivate you to come back. But I've learned in all of my stuff and getting out of food addiction that the opposite of addiction is connection, and like the vitalness, and for anybody listening, of like you finding your community. And for myself, I used to think like, oh, my family is just my community, like it's just built in, we just all go to the family parties and cousins and da da da. But there was always still, the family challenges, and me always feeling a bit of, yeah, non-fulfillment, just not fulfilled after family stuff. And um, there's several communities now. I'm always a part of a community that I've resonated with. But anyway, just want to highlight that for anybody listening. Like if you feel a lack of fulfillment, socially, or you don't have a community, no matter what it is, whether it's a church community or it's something like this for, help for something that you have, challenges with, or a dance community or whatever that you don't feel, if you don't have that, like, please keep looking for that, like, because, yeah. And I'm curious, how did that change you when you found how did it change things for you?
Um, well, I think it was going alongside of other things were happening all at the same time, right? And so uh, for that, it was alongside of going and doing the work that I've been doing with you, the work that, and I can explain a little bit about that, but I think it was all like, there wasn't just one thing happening, right? I was
Right.
still doing the family therapy with my son and his therapist. There were some wowzo family uh, weekends that were so hard and so empowering and so eye-opening. It was actually, you do three of them when he was at the equine therapy boarding school. And the last one of the three, they're like, that's the easiest one. It's just going to be all fun. And the last session, the last day, was the hardest thing because the parent had to go and look at themselves and then go and find what the root cause was. And it was there that I was like letting it go and letting it out. And we were done. And I looked at my son's therapist and I was like, I need therapy.
Wow.
And came home. That was the first thing I do is was found a therapist.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
there was the therapist. Then I had started the OPLM. Um, Backtrack a little bit is that at that time I had started working for TrueCore, and I was working virtually as a sales rep for a CrossFit gym in Annapolis, and then also a mindset coach for them. So when I would sell a product, in gym product, I would do everything outside of the gym and help them. And I really enjoyed that work. And then I also had some sales training, some pretty intensive sales training. And it was through all of this that I was like, oh, I like this, and liking that piece of it, right? Then I went through another difficult time.
Mm.
And in January, my ex husband, even though he's my ex husband, we were very good friends, stepdad, very close to the kids, suddenly passed away. And so January became a really hard time for all of us, and very hard time for me emotionally, and with my kids, then also with work. And it was Rusty Osborne that
Mhm.
was my sales coach that did an extra session, maybe even two, with me to help me through, well, where do you want to be, more on a business side, and helping me through. And I asked him, okay, I like this stuff. Whatever it is you're doing with me, I like this stuff, right?
Mm.
And it was, and I want more of it. And that is where it led me to you, because
Mm.
it was the neurolinguistic programming practitioner training that he got from you that, led me to you to ask you about the training. And so I think that OPLM by itself wasn't it, but I think that I show up so much differently because of the work that I've done there and I've done with you with the training. And man, that the training um, was really great. It was hard, and then the continued work that we continue to do together. And I've added things like meditations every morning that I never did. I do here's my book, my journal that Leslie told me about. So it's so I don't think there was just one thing, right?
Mhm.
But it's all of those things that have sandwiched together
Mhm.
that have really helped me, to where I am right now. And the work isn't done by any means. I was crying earlier today, and but
Mhm.
here I am showing up and making the best of it.
Yeah. And like the amount of growth that I've seen in you from, however long ago it was now, a year and a half ago to now or whatever, um, is incredible. Just like I just really acknowledge you for going through all the spaces you had to go through, to from like it sounds like really maybe having no idea that there was anything to look at, within yourself to, being not wanting to touch on any emotions, not wanting to share, not, to you know, because it's so scary for all these reasons that we unpack, but you can't be ready for that until you're ready for that. And I really believe that kind of we're given what we need. And, each group is kind of like, okay, here's a little stair step to have you feel a little bit more comfortable out of your comfort zone. And then next one and the next one. And then going through, and then it's like, okay, now the emotions are out and now it's a full, and that can
Mhm.
feel destabilizing because it's like, well, now it's just a whole mess, but it does, sort through and does balance out. And now I just know every time that we sign on, you're going to be, present and, steady and cool. Doesn't mean there's not still challenges. We all have them, but like, I'm just so happy for you that the really challenging, tough part, is beyond because it can't, once you, and that goes along with the timeline therapy and neurolinguistics. Once you touch on those major negative emotions and you can actually see the things that you've been either consciously or unconsciously been pushing down for literally our whole lives, it can't be, it's like Jack in the Box, it's like we've already, cranked Jack around and he is ready to pop, but you have just not been letting it up, right? And this is what I deal with all my clients, and yeah, it can feel really whatever at first, but it's so worth it. And that's how it was for myself as well. Just being really terrified to show emotions. I was afraid that people wouldn't trust me anymore. Like my leadership role, I imagine, even your jazzercise role, you're just upholding this, right, for the whole community and needing to be that strong and business leader and all the things. Like I had no safe place in my mind to actually show that I was a human, that I was struggling, and then as soon as I did find a safe place, it was like all bets are off. I was crying my eyes out and that was like the first step in it, right? Anyway, so I love that. Yeah, we can kind of see and trust all the synchronicities of what we're, being led to, but really good for you for taking the action when you were interested and saw a spark, because that is what I see that I wish more people were, paying attention to those sparks and taking those actions because I always just want to prevent those types of major life events, like happened with your son, not that you could have prevented that in any way, shape, or form, but just like if there's anything we can do to like start listening, paying attention to,
Mhm.
start doing our work, get the therapy, get the support, whatever now, and not wait until right? It's just huge. So kudos to you for once you did unfortunately have the major hard thing, but you then from then on consistently took that action and got out of your comfort zone. And you and I talked about the financial pieces, about what we had to do and obviously what you had to do, to take care of your family, despite all things. And um yeah, and that's the other thing. So when I left nursing, it was like I need to let people know that hypnosis exists, that this work exists, you know, um, and selling this to people prior to there being, a major life event. So it's like if you don't get your emotional eating under control, if you don't get whatever is your challenge under control now, when you kind of have an inkling that it's probably a, challenge, right? Then that's when we end up with these diagnoses, these diseases. Like, and when I saw my patients in the hospital and they're getting their third amputation from diabetes and poor lifestyle habits that created it, is like I'm getting to these patients too late, given
Mhm.
what my passion is, given what my experience is. So for anyone listening, like, please take whatever, like your food challenges, your whatever emotional challenges that you experience, your relationship challenges seriously now, just like because these things do lead to a space that, I never want anybody to have to endure unnecessarily. Um and I was sharing with you and I want to share with the whole audience as well about Mel Robbins podcast and her talking about um that she got her son diagnosed with ADHD, and that's when she found out she had ADHD, which reminded me of your story of like you were helping your son and all of a sudden you're like, I need therapy. Um, but she acknowledged and, she talks very openly about how she was extremely broke, 10 years ago. Her family went to a terrible financial, like really bad financial situation. Um, and she said that so she knows what it's like to not have the ability to get incredible services, right? Like the services you got for your son and, just the unfairness and the, yeah, sadness that it is of how many people just based on their financial abilities or even their education. It's the difference between going to jail or dying, versus thriving because they
Mhm.
got the education, they got the support. And so that's something that I really care about deeply. But, for anyone listening to this podcast, most likely if you're listening to a podcast and regardless of what financial situation you're in, like if you ended up in a horrible, health situation that required a big chunk of money, but it was going to save your life, like I really bet that you would bend over backwards and make it happen. And, even though it could be like, oh, my food stuff, it's not that important, or my weight stuff or whatever, like consider that it's insurance to prevent those things happening later. And I always say to people, you're either going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later when you don't have your health anymore. Um, so, um, I think they're just to look at that for yourself and to recognize, yeah, just the different risks that you can take. I just had a client, she's just started our Fast Track to Freedom program. And so she was like, nope. She was like, I don't have any money. I just started my own business. Nope, can't do it, but I know I need this, blah, blah, blah. And then she was just like, well, I have my retirement account, but I can't touch that because I'll be taxed for it. And I was like, are you sure you can't touch that? And she was like, yeah, why am I saying that? Maybe I can touch that. And then she like made a phone call. She took it out. She's like, it's my money. And then she's like, I'm ready to start. It's just like, and that's a type of crazy, quote unquote, crazy action. But if you know it's something you need, then there's always a way. And I really do feel that whatever people's faith is, synchronicity or whatever, that we are provided for when you are saying yes to what you actually need, and what's going to really serve you. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
Um, no, but if I can backtrack for a second, it's so funny that each time I learn something when we get together, and it was just one of those light bulb moments that you talking about the Jack in the Box,
Mm,
just brought me back to when I owned the Jazzercise and going through a divorce with the kid's biological dad, who is a drug addict.
mm,
Uh, and just going and like the one day driving to work, and he's like literally ran me off the road because he wanted whatever money I had in my
Wow.
wallet. And mind you, I was right around the corner from the jazzercise that I owned and I had to teach in like the next 15 minutes. Bawling, scared, everything. Roll up. All right, Michele, get it together because you have to get up on the stage and act like the happiest person ever. And I did it
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have any options at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, going and holding it in, not having that community, that space, versus fast forward to now, which I know I shared with you, that I had the most incredible Thanksgiving holiday with all of my family, all of my family. My brother, my sister, my mother, my dad came in for my brother's 60th birthday party, and my kids, and all of my nieces and nephews. Everybody was there. And I cannot tell you, uh, no stress, no arguing, at least on my part, no raised voices. I couldn't even tell you the last time I raised my voice, which I used to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of this work.
That's really powerful. Thank you for saying that. Go
And,
ahead. Mm-hmm.
and makes me want more. And so grateful that I'm going to be doing the master's training with you this month in January, which I'm like, okay, let the healing keep going because I got more in me, and I want to, I want to just be on the rooftops going, you need this too. You need this too. Come, let me help you.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've been doing this for 4 years of saying the same exact thing. And yes, it actually is that powerful. Um, yeah, we think that we're living our lives, like we think we are, but then all of a sudden it's like realizing what we're bottling up. And it's not normal to feel that angry. It's not normal to be so aggravated by your family on Thanksgiving, and to feel it's not normal to eat a whole, like, binge eat on whatever, or to have multiple drinks or whatever, and know that you're numbing something down emotionally. Like, that's none of that stuff is normal. And similar to when you were saying about how your son said it was his rock bottom, like, I really always say that if you feel that it is your rock bottom, it is your rock bottom. And I don't care. It looks different for everybody. And I remember kind of justifying within myself before I worked on this stuff, right? Before I had neurolinguistic programming, did all the emotional mastery work and all the things, and hypnosis and all. Um, of justifying within myself, of being like, no, I don't have a problem, because if I did, then I wouldn't be able to function, or I would have to go to rehab, or I would have to whatever, but it was like, but inside myself is screaming at myself that there is something not cool about what's happening here, and feeling out of control. And I don't care if it's with food or if it's, whatever it is. It's just, if it feels like that for you, like, then you need to pay attention. It is an issue. But a lot of my clients have, anger challenges. They're really short with their husbands or kids, or they isolate themselves, or they blow a gasket, here and there. It's not normal. But the good news is, it's like an indicator that there's some of this work that we get to do, and life gets really cool and really amazing and whatever when you do it. And health is on the other side of that, and obviously fulfillment and happiness, and just really much healthier relationships. When you told me about that with your Thanksgiving, there's nothing that makes me happier than that. Oh my gosh, just because I know what it used to be like. I used to feel so isolated on Thanksgiving. I used to be trying to control my food all the time, and oh gosh, and then I'd be upset for the next week after, and all the different things. But it's just not my experience anymore. So again, for anybody, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that can resonate with this. Just please pay attention to those little or big signs, and just take any action. Like, book this call from this that I offer, through the website, on hpwl.co. But like, maybe it's not it, but you took one action, and maybe that call will lead you to a different call, but you got to start somewhere. because life isn't going to just happen for you if you don't do something different and say, all right, this is speaking to me. Let me listen to why I'm resonating with this and go for it. So amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate this conversation. I know it's going to help a lot of people. And I feel intuitively like it's just begun for you. Like NLP was just like the beginning grounds of the impact that was there, regardless of what that impact looks like. If it's just impact on you and your family or impact on millions and trillions of people, um, I just really get that sense, and I'm excited to keep training you. And thank you for just always being so wanting to learn and coachable and like give it to me and I'm ready and here I am and all the things, because it's how you do it and it's how you're going to continue to be able to serve powerfully your clients. I know you've had clients that you're working with now with NLP, that have had cancer diagnoses, and what other types of things are they dealing with? Obviously weight loss, you still help people with that. So
Weight
yeah,
loss,
tell us how
and
specifically you work with people now. And yeah.
it's come across, I think my avatar, my niche, whatever, is probably parents with kids with addiction. I've got one, and then another one that I'm starting with in January. But it kind of started with the weight loss, right? And then digging in deeper with those. But yeah, it's a wide range, and been able to really help people that are, that have had some dark places. Like
Mhm.
a friend that I get to call her now a friend is, was really struggling, and just to kind of talk through some of okay, well, what's going on? How do we get rid of that, and, you know, get this bad talk that we do to ourselves.
Mhm.
So, yeah, several of the weight loss, because I still do the workouts with those that want to, because that's where I started, right?
Mhm.
The mindset work kind of came along, um, and find so much more growth with the mindset wellness work
Mhm.
than the workouts.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And everyone who's a longtime listener to this podcast gets that. It's great to have the workout, but unless we're healing the stuff in the background, it's only temporary and yeah, not really healing the patterns. So that's awesome. And I've personally witnessed Michelle coaching before, and she's extraordinary to be with. She cares so deeply. She listens so well. She can find different things. Um, and amazing at hypnosis, amazing at doing the emotional mastery deep, that like just incredible, and has, and that's what I love about coaching so much, is literally no one could have the story that you have about what did for your son, did with your family, did for yourself. And just so delighted for anyone who hears this message and resonates to be able to contact you. So how will they be able to do that?
Yeah, they can go to my website at m3mindmotion.com, and you can reach me and book a call. I would love to connect and share experiences for sure. I
Love
really
it.
appreciate you asking me, and I can't wait for our next podcast when we get to reconnect, and I get to share how great the master's training was and how it's changed my life in that way.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah. On that quick note on the NLP training, what was the most, I don't know, impactful thing about the NLP training, do you think? Or what do you think is that people should know about it that they may not really understand when it comes to neurolinguistic programming?
Um, so I would say that the thing that just popped in, which is what I'm supposed to go with,
Mm-hmm.
is that hypnosis is really just being in a relaxed state. And it's not a getting on the stage and rocking like a chicken.
It is not.
And that practice that I've done with my clients has been really transformative for them, and something that they repeat for themselves often. which is really nice, is that they can
Yes.
learn how to self-soothe themselves. Had a member the other day who had like a mini panic attack. And I was like, okay, so uh, what did you do? How wasn't it full on panic attack? I grounded myself. And she felt good about it. Right. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Thank you for
I
saying
would
that.
say that was one of the big takeaways.
Yeah, I really see it as being like how to amplify. If you're someone who works with people, over time towards a goal. So I've worked with obviously lots of coaches, but then also a bunch of dentists now have gone through the program, and where you're doing a great job, you're, already really good at guiding people through their journey. But how can I add even more value? Because the thing is, you can't take out the fact that there's going to be emotional things in the background for these people that you're really serving, that's going to get in the way of their being able to do whatever goal that you're helping them towards, whether it's a root canal or, it's weight loss, or, it's buying a proper, whatever it is, that
Mhm.
if you aren't, if you are equipped with these tools. I had one dentist go through the program that said, I've done a lot of certifications before and this type of stuff, and it all has added tools to my tool belt. And she said neurolinguistic programming practitioner training was adding an entirely new tool belt.
Mm,
And I thought that was
I see
really
that.
awesome. And to me, it's like the foundational tool belt that I feel that every human being should have to live an extraordinary life. So even if you don't want to add it, professionally, even just personally for yourself. It is literally how to live an extraordinary life, how to be extraordinary in every single aspect of life. So you don't need to make it something that you have to do for a living. It helps with leadership, it helps with parenting, it helps with relationships, it helps with health, it helps with everything. Um, and really just understanding how our bodies and minds process the world, and how we can alter, that in our favor and for everybody's benefit. So thank you for, helping us to share about that. I'm super excited to train you. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so if anyone is interested in the NLP training, the link for that is hpwl.info/NLP and the number one. hpwl.info/NLP number one. Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we put your link in the show notes for everyone to take advantage of. And I look forward to continuing to see all the impact that you make for all the parents that have gone through similar things as you. So thank you for doing the work.
Thank you.
And for everyone
Thank
listening,
you.
thanks for listening, and we'll see you for the next episode.
Thank you.
If
Appreciate
you are
it.
serious about taking action on your struggle with food, body, and weight, then this is for you. Go ahead and text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483. Immediately after texting that number, you will get access to our free training that will tell you why you can't figure the food, body, and weight thing out, why you can't keep weight off even after you've been successful in the past, and how to actually overcome it, including a mini hypnosis session at the end. Don't miss out. Text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483.